dear student friends, today we shall be covering 5th lecture in this particular series. I am Dr. Jahagirdar Dattatreya Venkatesh, was a professor of chemistry and head of the department of chemistry at Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar University, Aurangabad, and I taught postgraduate classes almost for 35 years. I am keenly interested in the environment, and that is why I have taken this assignment of speaking to you on these ecosystems. Since the existence of man on this earth, he is constantly in search of ideas, and ideas create nature's duplication. This particular duplication of nature is existed by creation of fire. When a man saw fire actually growing up in a thick forest or a thick jungle, he wanted to copy it. At the same time, this particular fire produced heat. This heat was felt by human being. That is why man thought that fire is responsible for heat. The works during this particular process, that is fire, creation of houses, agriculture, were known to human beings since long. But there was no scientific discovery as such. There was no scientific understanding as such of all these phenomena. In that sense, ecosystem is a new phenomenon or a new framework. It can also be called as modern biology, because ecosystem covers biology and it is a part of the biological systems. To define ecosystem perfectly well, one can say that it is a study of any animals and plants in their natural habitat. What we understand by the natural habitat is, the natural habitat means where they are existing. Just as you have got a forest, just as you have got a river in their own existence, that is called a natural habitat. There are 4 types that are generally understood in this ecosystem. One is called resonance ecosystem. The resonance ecosystem is the ecosystem which deals with the human being, or how a human being resonates with animal and plants. In this particular case, resonance is a new word approaching us. So let me explain what is resonance. In physics, we have got this phenomenon of resonance. When we take 2 tuning forks and both have got the same frequency, and if you ring or make a noise of the first tuning fork, keep the second very close to it, the second automatically starts vibrating. This particular vibration is called resonating or resonance. When your ideas actually coincide with the ideas of your neighbor, you say that your ideas are resonating. This particular type of thing is resonance. This is called resonance. Then there is called pollution system. The third one is third ecosystem, where it is a difference of animals and plants, and the last one is called the natural systems. In this particular case, the understanding of these particular systems was done initially by simple instrumentation. This simple instrumentation was observing it through eyes and noting it down the changes that is occurring with respect to time. But the advancement of instrumentation has tremendously changed our knowledge. What the instruments do is that they lead to more accuracy. We can take a very simple example. A very simple example is a spectrophotometer, which is commonly used in our laboratories to understand the phenomena of photosynthesis. What we do in photosynthesis, in this particular phenomena, spectrophotometer, is that we measure the intensity of visible and ultraviolet light. Previously, that is around 1940 to 50, we had instruments known as colorimeters. And the colorimeter used to have filters, and each filter covered a range of 60 to nanometers. As you are aware that visible radiation is 400 to 800 nanometers, which was divided into 8 parts, so one could read accurately up to 60 nanometers only. The instrument was modified around 1960, and we had spectrocolorimeters where we could read accurately up to 5 nanometers, meaning thereby we could read 480, 485, 490 like that. We went further in our accuracy during 1919 when we had devised what is called a spectrophotometer, which can read 1 nanometer accurately. If you read 1 nanometer accurately, the lambda maxima or the maximum wavelength of absorption, you can read very accurately, and when you can read very accurately, your instrumental results are accurate. The spectrophotometer, the infrared spectrophotometer, the magnetometer, or the recently started nuclear magnetic resonance are the 3 equipments which have completely revolutionized chemistry and physics. Botany and zoology are taking now the help of these particular instruments, and this help will definitely make them more aggressive or more idea orientation. What we want to understand now is, in nature actually what is happening? Why the plants remain green? This particular greeniness is because of the fact of phenomena of photosynthesis. As you all are aware that we inhale and exhale as a human being. What we exhale is oxygen, what we exhale is carbon dioxide, what we inhale is oxygen. This particular oxygen is present in the atmosphere. The atmosphere oxygen is also produced by the plants, because the plants take carbon dioxide, and this particular carbon dioxide reacts with water in presence of ultraviolet radiation, and a very important pigment that is present in the plants, that is called chloroplast. In presence of chloroplast, which acts as a catalyst, the green plants take carbon dioxide, moisture present in the atmosphere, and produce sugars and oxygen. The equation is C6H12 6CO2 plus 3 oxygen gives you 1 molecule of glucose, 1 molecule of sucrose, and 3 molecules of oxygen. These sucrose molecules therefore start a series of reactions, and they produce later on proteins and various types of carbohydrates in these particular plants. The plant therefore remain green, and this particular greenness of plants is because of that particular photosynthesis phenomena. As you all are aware, the photosynthesis phenomena occurs regularly. It is a very simple reaction which is not a chemical, it is a chemical reaction, but not much heat is produced. That is why, though the reaction is occurring continuously, we are not getting continuous heat in this particular reaction. The sunlight falls on the plants. Plants mean the sunlight falls on the flowers. The sunlight falls on the leaves. The leaves carry out this reaction in the presence of water vapor. Another quality of these leaves is, the leaves when they are not dry or they are wet, they give out what is called water vapor. This water vapor is a part of the atmosphere. So in this particular case, all the phenomena is going in continuously, and in this continuation, water cycle, oxygen cycle, carbon dioxide cycle, nitrogen cycle, they play a very important part. We shall look at the cycles one by one. As all of you know very well, that water is abundant with us in sea. This already we had seen in third and fourth lecture. Water is not abundant in the soil. Only a small part of 70% of water is present in sea. What we have to do now, to understand the water cycle, first we say that water gets evaporated from the sea. This evaporated water goes up because of the wind and form clouds. The clouds actually, when they get thick, this particular occurs in India in monsoon, then we get a heavy shower. This is called rainfall or the monsoon fall. What happens is that this particular water falling in the raindrop, form of raindrops, is collected by the plants. The plant has got three parts. One is roots, which is below the soil, then bark, and then the leaves and the branches. Water actually goes through the bark, to the leaves, and to the various parts of plants through a phenomenon known as a capillary action. This capillary action is a phenomenon known to all of us. If you take a capillary tube and dip in water contained in a conical flask, automatically water goes up in a capillary force. This particular capillary tube upgrading is called capillary action. A capillary action takes place naturally in our body also. In our hair, when we put oil, this particular oil goes to the brain, especially by capillary action. These capillary actions therefore are a natural phenomena, and they can be understood that the tree does this particular capillary action phenomena and the leaves remain green. One very important point is that the broadness of tree is really amazing. Means tree is not specifically selective. It does not want to light of specific wavelength. It can take light of any wavelength. This particular light falls on the upper layer, then it penetrates in the lower layer and the third layer. Automatically the layer which is much below definitely gets less amount of light. This particular less amount of light is responsible for keeping the leaves green because the amount of light is not specific in nature. One very interesting phenomena that we can see in USA, there is a phenomena known as fall colors. In fall colors, what happens is that the colors of leaves in the same tree are different. This particular difference is because of the fact that the amount of light taken up by this particular leaf is different and different shades. The fall colors generally start in the month of October, and a number of people go for a picnic to see the fall colors only. The fall colors therefore is a phenomena that is occurring because of the intensity of light falling on each particular leaf is different. These leaves actually are getting green and water is going through the roots. The roots take water and remain moist. The water remaining in the roots goes through the capillary in the bark and the branches. That is why the tree is always green. Then it goes to leaves and plants. How it goes to plants and leaves? That is responsible for keeping the water inside the plants for the phenomena of photosynthesis in presence of chloroplast, and the whole tree remains green. At the same time, what happens? the water actually gets evaporated from the plants. The evaporated water is called water vapor. The water vapor is loaned by these particular leaves to the atmosphere. That is why whenever there is a forest, water vapor is abundant and the climate remains very salubrious. We have seen this water cycle. Let us go to another cycle, oxygen. This oxygen cycle is rather different, and different in the sense that because there is a phenomena going on in this where there is an equilibrium between oxygen and carbon dioxide. The oxygen carbon dioxide phenomena equilibrium is continuously going on in nature, and if there is a small change in it, this particular change is located and the balance is maintained satisfactorily. The maintenance of the balance is a phenomena known as homeostasis. In this particular phenomena, therefore, oxygen is exhaled, inhaled by human being, and carbon dioxide is exhaled. In industrial pollution, where the percentage of carbon dioxide increases, automatically carbon dioxide oxygen equilibrium is disturbed, and this disturbs the carbon dioxide cycle also. There is another cycle known as nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen cycle is responsible because it is responsible for giving us ammonia, for giving nitrogen oxide, nitrogen gas, and this nitrogen gas is responsible for the production of various metal nitrates. The nitrogen gas and ammonia are also responsible for plants. The nitrogen cycle actually is responsible for the creation of manures. When the dead animals die, they are attacked by microbes and fine minerals are produced. These minerals in presence are used as manures for the plants. These particular manures in the nitrogen cycle is utterly responsible, and that is why in manure formation nitrogen is important and ammonia therefore is very important. All these things therefore have been modified now, and this modification is being taken place because of the help of computer and computer technology. Before going to the computer section, let us talk something more detailed about the phenomena of photosynthesis and its after effect. This particular phenomena is responsible for production of food, and the food is responsible for upbringing of the trees. The trees therefore are called in the language of ecosystem as producers. The producers are being used by the consumers. It is the interaction of plants and animals. Therefore, the consumers are of different types. The first type of consumer are deer, cows. We just choose these particular leaves. They are called consumers of the first type. The second type of consumers are deer. The third type of consumers are herbaceous animals and carnivorous animals also. They can be lions, jackals, wildcats, and like that. In addition to that, there are microbacteria, smaller bacteria which decay the organic matter. These are called scavengers. All the food that is eaten up by the animals is responsible for the growth of the animals, and the animals are eaten by some men or some societies which we call as non-vegetarian people. These non-vegetarian people cook the animal and eat the mutton actually, which is a cumulative effect of all the food that is produced plus all the consumers in the lower ladder. To understand the significance of each of these, we say that the whole system can be confined or can be looked up in the form of a pyramid. All of you must have been knowing pyramid in Egypt. The Egyptian pyramids have a big base and a very tall, small top. The same is the case here. If you look at the pyramids, we can look at the pyramids of the grassland, of the energy, and tree pyramids. Let us look at the first. The pyramid actually is a grassland. If you look at it, the base is made of grass. The first consumer is here. The second consumer is lion. That means consumer 1 here will eat grass. This hair will be eaten up by the lions. So it is a process. It is a process P1, C1, C2. Then let us start with the system of grass. There is a grasshopper. After grasshopper there is a what is called frog. After frog, what we call birds, and the whole system goes up. Similarly is the case of energy. This you can see from the picture that is available to you. What we can see from this is the amount of the material given by a producer is always very large. The amount is first consumed by consumer 1. The consumer 1 are a majority of the animals which are found out very close to the forest. Consumer number 2 animals devour or eat these animals of C1. Consumer number 3, they are carnivorous like lion and they eat all types of animals. So if you look from the energy point of view, what do you mean by energy? The energy means whatever energy available in kilocalories per meter square per year that is given by the producer. This particular energy is taken up by C1, C2 and C3. The energy given is 20,810 by the producer, and we are looking for the pyramid of energy. The energy pyramid is very simple. It has a big base of 23,380, meaning thereby this is the primary producer's energy in kilocalories per meter square per year that is stored in that particular producer. This particular energy will be taken up by C1, that is the consumer, and the consumer in this particular case of grass or hoppers or grasshoppers. So C1 will have a number of 2380. What it means is a very simple thing, where the energy required of this 2380 has been gathered by a producer which has produced 23,380 kilocalories per meter square energy. Then C2 is 383, and surprisingly enough, C1 is only 21. What do you understand by this particular pyramid? Is that the energy which is so big in quantity, 23,833, that is stored by the producer, is being consumed by C3 finally through C1 and C2. That is why one of the greatest allegations against non-vegetarian people is that they are finishing the energy of universe very fast. Because the energy is stored by the nature through the phenomena of photosynthesis. So it is the plant, green plants, small animals, big animals, and then the carnivorous. And man has also become now carnivorous in the sense that he has started eating meat. That is why most of the European country people who eat meat regularly, they actually are utilizing Earth's energy to a greater extent than we people in India, where most of us are vegetarian. It is not about propagation of any particular fact. It is a propagation of scientific knowledge that if you eat non-vegetarian food, you are consuming a lot of energy from the nature. But if you eat a vegetarian food, you are not consuming energy to that extent. So we come back to our original idea on computer. What happened was, physics and chemistry used mathematics to a good sense or good extent to develop their science. Physics especially with mathematical equations and various types of units that they built could use the mathematical equation, means the use of mathematics was rampant. Chemistry followed soon, but somehow their botany or zoology, they remained aloof, meaning thereby they did not use mathematics for the growth of botany or zoology in the beginning. The study was mainly observation through a microscope, recording this observation and then drawing certain conclusions. These particular conclusions were not mathematically oriented. From 1960 onwards, mathematics went further with the help of electronics, and we started a branch known as computer. What computer does? It does the calculations very fast. This particular doing of calculation very fast, remembering the data very fast, keeping it intact in a permanent memory, giving us the data at any particular time will be highly useful for all the people in botany and zoology. Therefore, ecosystem is therefore mainly benefited by computer, which can give us so much data. So computer technology has been great boon of botany and zoology, and we are really fortunate that these particular science branches are using computer for their own growth. Their own growth therefore will depend on this particular technology, and you can find that they can also develop like physics and mathematics. We are concentrating quite good enough on photosynthesis. Photosynthesis deals mainly with light. So let us try to understand what is light. Light factor is very important. As all of us know very well, sun is a very powerful source of light. Light comes to us in the form of visible and ultraviolet. Ultraviolet light is reflected by the ozone layer. That is why it doesn't reach us to great extent and we are saved from the heat visible light reaches us, and that has been utilized in the phenomena of photosynthesis. Only 1/50th millionth of sun's energy approaches us. So you can understand how much powerful the sun will be. This particular sunlight is consisting of 7 different colors, and we utilize all these types of colors for the phenomena of photosynthesis. So solar energy, which has become very useful in our day-to-day life, is also useful in ecosystems. So you must use the solar energy to a greater extent. This particular solar energy, or what is called the sunlight energy, is responsible for us and for food habits. Then let us go to another type of energy that is also coming from water. We are continuously talking about energy. Let us understand what is energy. Energy manifests itself in various forms. Potential energy, kinetic energy, mechanical energy. Potential energy is due to height. Kinetic energy is due to motion. Magnetic energy is due to magnetism. But we have got some other forms which are mainly useful. One is called heat energy. Second is called electrical energy. Third is called light energy or electrical energy. Magnetic energy. And we say that energy can be converted from one form to the other. Please try this and please understand it to a greater extent. This is the outcome of first law of thermodynamics, which states that energy cannot be converted from one form to the other. It can be converted from one form to the other, but you can never create or destroy energy. Now I have already given one example, but I will just repeat it to make my point one clear. This particular example you can have, or you might have guessed, in lecture number 3. Water at the top of a mountain has got potential energy. Then water falls down in the form of a fall, acquires kinetic energy, meaning thereby potential energy is converted into kinetic energy. When it falls down, it has got tremendous amount of kinetic energy, which you can see if you just see or sit below any simple waterfall. If you have got a machine or a wheel, the kinetic energy can move a wheel. So a wheel gets mechanical energy. This mechanical energy can be transferred into electrical energy. Electrical energy can be used to light our houses. This is called light energy. Can be used for magnetic studies or create magnetism. What we want to say is, energy cannot be created or destroyed. Energy can be converted from one form to the other. In this particular case, please remember that 100% conversion is not possible. This 100% conversion meaning thereby, if you have got any device to convert heat into electrical energy or mechanical energy into heat, the device can never have efficiency equal to 1. Complete conversion of heat into work is impossible because a large amount of heat is dissipated. Similarly, complete conversion of energy from one form to the other is impossible. The energy involvement that we carry out in nature is of slightly different type. It is a very small amount of energy given by infinitely small plants are infinitely small cells. As all of us know that we grow as a child and child gets its energy from food. This particular food produces blood and circulation of blood gives energy. This particular energy is responsible in the enhancement or strength of a muscle. All the cycle therefore is a very systematic cycle carried by nature to understand. That is the difference between a human being and natural phenomena. Nature is very meticulous. It always carries the transactions of energies very slowly by infinitely small procedures, with the result that the transition occurs extremely slow, unlike the transition that we carry out in laboratories. When we talk about light energy or solar energy, let us understand an amazing fact about nature. The phenomena of photosynthesis is so delicate, but nature organizes it so efficiently that all the green plants are produced in forest and in nature. The light that is coming from sun and through the ozone layer, mostly ultraviolet and infrared radiation is there. This particular light falls first on the top leaves. When it falls on the top leaves of tall trees, then part of that light gets reflected. The reflection occurs almost 70% for the infrared radiation and for only 3% for ultraviolet radiation. The remaining light, that is the visible light, which has got a wavelength region of 500 to around 800 nanometer range, of that 40% is getting absorbed by the green plants and has been utilized along with carbon dioxide and a very important pigment, chloroplast. Why this is happening? Because for chloroplast to be activated, you require a specific amount of energy. The energy varies for every wavelength of light. That is why the energy generally required is 7,000 to 8,000 angstrom units, is being utilized for the phenomena of photosynthesis. That is why you can very well understand with a common sense that photosynthesis will be proper if the sunlight is good and atmosphere is very clean and dry. If the atmosphere is full of smoke, then automatically sunlight will not be full on the leaves. This will result in the reduction of light. Obviously, it will be reduction in the phenomena of photosynthesis. We in India are very lucky people because we have got abundant sunlight. But most of the northern countries, like North America or part of Europe, they do not get sunlight so abundantly. That is why the phenomena of photosynthesis is of a different type or slow in that case. Here you have to understand one very important point, that once glucose and fructose are formed, along with the nitrogen cycle nitrogen, there are various reactions occurring in the plants itself. These plants produce proteins, and as you know, proteins are produced from amino acids. The amino acids are complex systems. Proteins are much more complex. but nature produces them without any help of heat. The heat is inherently present in nature. One more point that you have to understand from this phenomena is the habitation or the forest area is of a different type in different regions. This is because of the fact that amount of sunlight is different in different regions. For this particular reaction to carry, temperature factor is very important. Otherwise, temperature factor also is important because if the temperature is very high, automatically leaves get dry, moisture content gets reduced, and therefore its absorbing capacity is reduced. So please remember one thing, that nature is a conglomeration of so many facts. And the fact is that the nature's metabolism, though apparently it looks very simple, it is highly complex, but it is carried out very efficiently by nature. That is why we have to thank nature for the bountiful it has given us. We shall be talking about pollution later on. Here a small example I want to quote. Let us imagine that your atmosphere is full with smoke, or there is a lot of growth of industry around that. Around that area a lot of industries are developing and they are throwing out smoke by the chimney. What will happen is that the sunlight approaching you will be less, automatically photosynthesis will be less. So continuously it is going on in the form of a cycle. That is why we call water cycle, oxygen cycle, nitrogen cycle, because it is not a one line or one direction change. It changes not only that particular fact but all of it. Let us try to understand something very interesting about this sunlight and the amount that it falls on nature, that is our soil. To understand it, let us understand also the availability of water in quantitative terms. Till now we are talking qualitatively, let us go some quantitatively. Water is measured in a unit known as geothermal, that is geogram. 1 geogram is equal to 10 raised to power 20 grams. The amount of water that is present in the ocean is 13,800 geograms. Out of that, 3.8 geogram evaporate continuously, 3.4 geograms is the volume returned to ocean due to rainwater. Ice caps have what? 167 gigograms, and a very small amount of it is received by us. That is, land receives only 23% of water, 84% of water is received by the rain to the ocean, and land receives only 16%. The presence of water will be responsible for production of relative humidity, and this particular relative humidity will be responsible for the general atmosphere. The quantitative term is the quantity of total radiation received at a particular place is dependent on its climate at an altitude, that is the position of the earth with respect to the sun. 33% of solar energy is reflected by the clouds. So if clouds are present in the atmosphere, that much amount of energy will be reflected. 9% is reflected by suspended dust. So we have calculated experimentally, also measured the amount of light coming to cities in various regions. This particular will be a very important factor to understand why this particular city is progressing very well. Britain has got 2.5 10 raised to power 8 kilocalories of light, Michigan 4.7, Georgia 6 and Varanasi 7.5. So only 1 to 5% energy is received by green plant is being utilized in chemical energy. What I want to give, or why I have given this particular data, to make the point very clear. Let us see Michigan or Georgia. Georgia is in United States, but still it has got sunlight to an abundant extent. So it has almost got clear sunlight, energy 3 times much more than Michigan. And Michigan Lake is very close to Niagara Falls. We are very fortunate in India that we have got solar energy. That is why Varanasi has got 7.5 to 10.8 liter. What I want to say is, we must thank the powerful sun. I had a chance to live in America for some time, and every day in the morning, whenever we meet each other or to our friend, we used to say hello, good morning. But suppose it is a very bright light sun or a sun is shining there, we used to say, hello, it is a very bright day. With bright sunlight is being welcomed by Americans because of the fact that it is a very rare phenomenon. I had also a chance to live in Finland, and Finland, as you know, is very north, very close to Arctic. We are very close to Santa Claus house. I stayed there for 1 month, in the month of October, and believe me, the sun was so mild that I used to laugh at the sun. I saw the sun through my naked eyes for a very short time, because the sun has not that much energy and power which it has got normally. I saw the sun not in the middle of the sky, it was just very close to the horizon. What means it has risen, but it has not gone up. Only one day I could see that it is very close to the mid-center. So believe me, some people and my friends, we ran outside, stand on a huge lawn and just watch the sun, in a very pleasant manner, just to appreciate the sun. That is why one of the important things that I always feel, why the Britons must, or English people must have prospered in this country, is because they had less sun, we had more sun, and they know the importance of this sun. Thank you very much.